Hello and welcome to South Asia Focus. I am Smita Prakash. This week we have with us Mr Hussain Haqqani, former Pakistan diplomat who was posted as ambassador to the US. He's a political author and journalist and also a senior fellow at the Hudson Institute in Washington, D.C. Hussain Haqqani will speak to us about the political situation in Pakistan, the South Asian nation's troubled relationship with the US and its relations with Afghanistan in the east and India in the west. Thank you very much for speaking with us. You're often called as the last man standing with regard to friendship between the US and Pakistan. You've written extensively about the relationship too. Tell me, where did things go wrong between these two allies? What was the point, if you could pinpoint an exact place where things started going south between Pakistan and the US?
I think the end of the Cold War was the beginning of the end of the alliance phase. Pakistan had unrealistic expectations of the United States, and the United States had unrealistic expectations of Pakistan. The Pakistani military was totally focused on India. The Americans thought if we just give them enough material, if we give them enough weapons, they will start feeling confident, and then there will be normalization between India and Pakistan, not understanding what the military really wanted. And the Pakistani military had an unrealistic expectation that just because it had been a Cold War ally, it will continue to be treated as an ally in a post-Cold War phase. Pakistanis have overestimated their strategic significance to the United States. The United States has overestimated its ability to influence Pakistan's behavior with aid.
So was it just a unidimensional relationship till the Cold War, and after that divergence of views, and that's why?
Absolutely.
A divergence of goals, I would say.
It was definitely a divergence of national interest as perceived by each side. In case of Pakistan, many civilian leaders understood the need for having close relations with America for economic growth, for example. But the military always had a very unidimensional approach. Look, Pakistan has a military much larger than its economic size allows. So it cannot buy a heavy equipment on the international market because it simply does not have the hard currency to do that. And in the very beginning, that's how Pakistan went close to the United States. They understood that the United States is the only country they can ask for planes and ships from. And the Americans were happy to give their second-hand ships to Pakistan. They were happy to give Pakistan sort of second-tier planes, jet fighters, etc. They never thought that Pakistan was actually going to go to war. Pakistan has gone to war multiple times, and the American willingness to give sophisticated weapons has declined, and that doesn't suit the Pakistani military. They never understood that the United States was unidimensional in its approach to the region. The Americans never understood that Pakistanis are unidimensional in their fixation with Kashmir or India, or wanting to be equal to India.
You know, you've written extensively on the shenanigans of the Pakistan army and how they don't allow democratically elected government to complete its term, because whenever it doesn't suit them, topple, and then there is... Now, we come back to the same thing, that is that the threat that is being held out to the current government in Pakistan now?
Look, the first thing is that I have tremendous regard for the Pakistani military. Like any country, Pakistan needs a military, and the military always is the first line of defense. The soldiers often do a lot of good work, whether it's in disasters like floods or earthquakes, or whether it is if the country ever goes to war. The problem in Pakistan, and the problem I have with Pakistan's military leadership, is that they assume that they understand everything better than everybody else, that they have the right to define Pakistan's policies. Policies should always, and national interest should always be defined by a process of consensus and debate. Even I have an opinion that needs to be weighed in. And they have not allowed that. So, for example, anybody who says we need close ties with India has been labeled a traitor. Anybody who says we need to forget about trying to get Kashmir right now and instead get on with economic progress, they tend to ignore. Anybody who says we are getting isolated globally, they tend to condemn. And then they question the patriotism of anybody who, for example, has a strategic vision about close ties with superpowers like the United States. So their desire is to control policy. What has changed over the years is that several generals have realized that taking over power is not a good idea for the military. It's better for the military to influence policy from behind the scenes than directly taking over. So we've had long spells in which the military has allowed civilians to wield office, but not necessarily to wield power. So we saw that from between 1988 and 1999. Then General Musharraf took over because he was about to be removed from office, and his colleagues didn't want him to lose that position. What we are seeing in Pakistan is the same thing. President Zardari wasn't allowed to completely
But somehow he managed to complete his term.
He completed his term by giving, relinquishing some spheres of policy. Right. He would listen a lot more to the military than he would have.
It's also said that he's currently in Washington DC trying to ask for help.
I met President Zardari in Washington DC. I didn't think he was a man who was visiting Washington to ask for help.
On behalf of Mr. Sharif?
I think he was just there to meet friends and attend to some personal business. Like you know,
but it was not asking for help.
It was not asking for help,
Mr.
and
Sharif
it wasn't asking for on behalf of Mr. Sharif or against Mr. Sharif. Okay. Mr. Zardari's position, as I understand it, is very clear. He wants Pakistan's democratic process to continue. He wants the elected government to last in office as long as it has full support in parliament, which it does. He wants Pakistan to develop democratic traditions. Problem lies in the way Pakistan is run sometimes by civilian leaders, including Mr. Sharif. Mr. Sharif runs the government not by going to parliament. He thinks democracy has given him the votes to wield power, and then he can do anything he likes. The government is less transparent. Very few people
but
are part of the decision making.
But it seems a little odd that he came with so much of hope, and you know, he won this election. And but it seems right now that his position is very precarious with Mr. Imran Khan and with Tahirul Qadri calling for a revolution in a week from now and overthrowing the government.
Well, first of all, I mean, you know, these calls for revolution we've seen before. They have often always ended up undermining democracy and sometimes paving the way for direct military intervention or behind the scenes military intervention. So it's not a very good idea. And the problem is Mr. Imran Khan is not a politician. He never has been. He's a cricket hero who became more of a hero by building a hospital in his mother's name. And then since then, all he's ever wanted is to be prime minister. He thinks he will make a very good and honest prime minister. And there are people who are sort of cult-like followers of him, but he's never understood politics.
He seems to be having the backing of the right-wing
and the right wing in Pakistan doesn't like democracy, the extreme right wing. You know, they can't win elections. They, again, it's about policy, not just about politics. The right wing would rather control policy through anybody, Imran Khan, the military, etc. They don't necessarily need positions. They want their ideas. So groups like Jamaat-e-Islami, etc., they have a very clear idea of which way they want to move Pakistan. Hafiz Saeed and Lashkar-e-Taiba has a very clear view of what kind of Sharia rule they want. If somebody else will oblige them...
Would they be more comfortable with an Imran Khan at the helm rather than a Nawaz Sharif or a Zardari?
Absolutely, because the thing is that Mr. Zardari and Mr. Nawaz Sharif have their own visions. Imran Khan has no vision. Imran Khan is all about Imran Khan. You know, I'm the good guy, so this is a man who sees no contradiction.
If he's that much of a megalomaniac, why will he toe the line of the army or of elements like Hafiz Saeed?
Those people need to think about it. But I think in his case, he may be a megalomaniac, but he's not a very sophisticated mind. I mean, there is a slight, shall we say, inability to think very deep. So, you know, the way he's been throughout, I mean, he was pro-Musharraf before he was against Musharraf, then he was pro-Islamization before he was pro-pluralism. He comes to India, he comes to India, he says nice things here, goes back, sort of, you know, rattles sabers.
When Mr. Sharif came here to India in May, there was actually, people were confused because did he have the backing of the army or not is what everybody wondered.
Well,
but then he did come, and when he went back, there was a lot of criticism that he faced because it was a bold move to come to New Delhi and attend the swearing-in ceremony of a man who had been very critical of Pakistan during the campaign. So it seemed like a very bold move, but...
he was reciprocating the favor that Mr. Vajpayee had done to him long ago, because after all, remember, Mr. Sharif was elected. with a very anti-India stance as well. This is a man who there was a time in 1989 or 90, I remember him standing in Kashmir saying, we will never make peace with India until we get Kashmir. So people make compromises, and that's what I was about to say earlier. Politics is about compromise. Politics is not about taking a hard line. I wish Mr. Sharif very well because he's the elected leader, but he has a problem. His problem is he sometimes wants contradictory things. He wants democracy, but he doesn't want to go to parliament and spend time there. He wants good relations with India, but he doesn't want to spend the time and energy that should be his priority, which is to ensure that he has full control of foreign policy, which he doesn't. He thinks he does. So therefore, what we are seeing is a power struggle. Those forces that do not want Mr. Sharif to move forward with normalization with India, basically, instead of attacking him from the front, attack him from behind.
Which is what we are seeing now. The latest figures are that the Indian government has said that Pakistan has violated ceasefire 54 times this year, 19 times since the Modi government came to power. So clearly, I mean, even though Mr. Sharif is talking about peace and we have the foreign secretary level talks to begin later this month, in spite of that, it's quite clear that, nothing is going to move forward if the ceasefire does not hold.
Smitha, you know what I have been saying for a while. For the India-Pakistan dynamic to change, the fundamental attitudes have to change. I see that fundamental change of attitude in India. There are a lot more people who publicly say, look, we wish Pakistan well. So the Pakistani fear that India wants to finish off Pakistan should end. But on the Pakistani side, the psychology that Pakistan's ideology, as they call it, will be hurt by normal relations with India, that needs to change. Where Mr. Sharif, in my opinion, has gone wrong is that he's gone ahead with the process of engaging the government of India without engaging the people of Pakistan. He needs to spend a lot more time convincing the people of Pakistan that, you know what, this is what is in the national interest, and in that he needs to,
you mean good relations?
Good relations with India.
Right.
So when he doesn't do that,
then
the military, the intelligence service, and groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba can play games from behind. If he says that. If he says to Hafiz Saeed that, you're not a leader, you are a terrorist, and I'm not going to engage with you. If he tells the people of Pakistan that Pakistan is getting isolated internationally because of supporting terrorism, or the impression that Pakistan is supporting terrorism, and if he says that normalization with India is in the economic interest of the people of Pakistan, and takes a firm stand on it, then shenanigans like creating situations along the line of control, or like the Mumbai incident that happened, which undermined Mr. Zardari's ability to reach out to India, then those will not be that easy. He needs to move, for example, if he seriously moved on the trial of the Mumbai attackers, I think he would really be giving a signal to the people of Pakistan that Pakistan has changed. The problem is not in the India-Pakistan dynamic. The problem is inside Pakistan.
Let's get on to Pakistan's relationship with Afghanistan. Seems almost as troubled today as its relations with the eastern neighbor, with India. What is Pakistan's grand plan? That strategic depth issue, is it still valid?
Well, they say that it's not valid anymore and that they've given up on it. But here's the problem. Pakistan has seen Afghanistan through the prism of its tensions with India. Always the argument has been Afghanistan should not become a part of the Indian sphere of influence. That's like trying to have a veto over Afghanistan's foreign policy. And the Afghans are not going to concede that. The best way for Pakistan to have a friendly government in Kabul is by befriending the government in Kabul, whoever it is. Stop demanding a say in the internal affairs of Afghanistan. And unfortunately, the legacy of that since 1988 has been very strong. Pakistan has meddled a lot in Afghanistan. It will take a lot of time for Pakistan to reassure Afghans, apart from, of course, not meddling anymore, also to reassure that we are not meddling and we really have no intentions of meddling in your affairs. I don't see that happening in the short term, so I see potential for trouble further down the road.
Thank you very much for speaking with us, Mr. Haqqani.
Always a pleasure.